Which is better for a great cruise vacation? Cruising on one of the really large ships or cruising on a smaller ship? What we find here today just might surprise you. Okay, let's go ahead and look into both options here and see what we come up with. Hey guys, I'm Michael, and welcome to Cruise Control. If you enjoy cruising or maybe just thinking about a first cruise, hey, we invite you to subscribe and come be a part of our cruise family here at Cruise Control. Okay, this is a question that a lot of people have, and the answer sometimes can be a little confusing because it may not be consistent among everyone that you ask. John over here, he may like the smaller ship, while Kimberly, she may only like to go on a large ship. I think a good way to answer this is to look at the disadvantages and the advantages of both. And I will give you my personal preferences also, and why. I do, however, want to say first off, any cruise is better than no cruise at all. Now, some people have maybe cruised once or twice, and whether it be on a small ship or a large ship, and they'll say, hey, this works for me, so I'm sticking with what I know. And there is certainly nothing wrong with that at all. Let's go ahead and start looking at some of the differences here. All right, let's start with the smaller ships. There are actually several advantages with cruising on a smaller ship. Okay, I think it's important to mention here that when I speak about a smaller ship, I'm not talking about a boat here. With most of the major cruise lines even, the smaller ships are pretty huge. It's just that there are ships even bigger now. The first key point here I want to make is staffing on a smaller ship. On a cruise ship that carries, let's say, 2,000 people, you may have a staff of 800 or 900 people. While on a cruise that carries 3,000 or 4,000, you may have a staff of, say, 1,500 or 1,600. Now, without having to do any math here, you can kind of see that on a smaller ship, the staff per passenger ratio is more like one staff member for every 2 passengers, while on a larger cruise, it's more like one staff member to every 3 passengers. Now, for me personally, I cannot honestly say that I've noticed any big difference either way, but a lot of people say that they do. So yes, some people would consider this an advantage to cruising on a smaller ship. Okay, now, next point here is if you're going with your family or even a group of people, I can tell you that it is a little easier to find your way around on a smaller ship, and it's easier to find each other sometimes. Also, this can especially hold true for a first-time cruiser. A smaller ship is much easier to learn the layout, where things are, and how things work on a cruise ship. Now, that's not to say that you can't do the same thing on a large ship. I'm just saying it's a little easier on a smaller ship. All right, another good point with going on a smaller ship is that there is a good chance that you can leave from a port closer to you, which may cut down on your travel time and distance to the ship. For some people, this can be a real deal breaker. Not everyone wants to travel all the way to Miami, Florida just to go on a cruise. Okay, now, I'd like to go ahead and clear up a couple of misconceptions that some people may have about smaller ships, and also share some information you may not know. First, there is no major price savings to going with a smaller ship versus going with a larger ship. There may be a slight difference, but nothing major. In fact, if you book sometimes during the winter months, you may not see any difference at all. Also, a smaller ship isn't any less safe than a large ship. They all follow standard safety regulations. Another thing I've heard mentioned several times is that, well, maybe the smaller ships are less crowded. Well, I want to say something here really quick. The pictures that you see of all those people out on deck, those are usually either like a sail-away party or an onboard event where everyone has been invited to attend. It's not always like that on the ship, and it's not elbow to elbow every place you go either. I mean, if we were packed like sardines on there, I would never go. I promise you that. Okay, now let's look at a couple of the disadvantages of the smaller ships. One disadvantage would be that some, not all, but some of the smaller ships don't offer as many balcony staterooms. Now, if you're choosing an interior room, it's not going to matter anyway. But for those folks who do enjoy a balcony, it can be rather limited sometimes with some of the smaller ships. Another disadvantage that I've found is that there isn't as much open deck space on some of the smaller ships to walk around and enjoy the view. Now, don't get me wrong, there is still plenty of space up at top of the ship to walk around and enjoy. It's just that on some of the larger ships, sometimes there are more open decks and sometimes a little closer to the water even, where you can walk around also. Okay, so overall, planning a cruise vacation with a smaller ship may save you some travel time and money in getting to your ship. Yes, the food will be fantastic, and hey, they're going to feed you till you can't walk. There is plenty to do on the ship: food choices, shows, clubs, bars, activities, and so much more. And hey, keep in mind that not too many years ago, these ships were the biggest ships and gave you everything you need. And yeah, they still do. Yeah, you're going to have a fantastic cruise vacation. Hey, if people didn't love those ships and have a great time then, well, they wouldn't even still be here for everyone to still enjoy now. Actually, it's so many of these very ships, and so much fun, that has brought the front runners of the cruise market to invest millions of dollars to build even much bigger and more luxurious cruise ships. Which brings us to why or why not to cruise on a much larger ship. Okay, this time I'm going to start with some of the disadvantages of cruising on a large ship. First up, this is the one that gets most people. The cruise companies usually base the larger ships at the larger ports of the bigger cities. And for most of us, that means it's going to be further away. Another disadvantage would be that for folks that want to take a shorter cruise, say 3 or 4 days, these can be somewhat limited on the bigger ships. Now, they do offer shorter cruises, but those tend to book up pretty fast. All right, debarkation. Yeah, getting all those people on and off the ship can take a little bit longer, but it's really not that bad and not really a deal breaker for most. Okay, now there are more people, and yes, at certain times it can seem more crowded, especially at the elevators. But again, not a deal breaker for most because it is a bigger ship. Okay, now let's talk about some of the advantages of cruising on a larger ship. Okay, I want to start with one that actually is a deal breaker for some people, and this is getting seasick. If you've cruised on a smaller ship and experienced seasickness, then there is a good chance that may not be as much of a problem on one of the larger ships. You just don't feel the movement as much on the larger ships. Next up is a favorite of so many people. I'm going with food here. There are so many more food choices on a larger ship. There are more restaurants to choose from. All right, activities. There are so many more things to do on a large ship. That can really come in handy, especially on sea days. Also, you have a much bigger selection of what kind of stateroom you might want. Now, if you've enjoyed going to see the shows on a cruise, just wait until you see what the bigger ships have to offer there. These shows are absolutely amazing. There are usually more swimming pools on a larger ship. There's more for the kids to do. Well, actually, there's more for everyone to do. Okay, I did say that I would tell you my preferences. So let me say once again that any cruise is better than no cruise. Okay, now, for example, a group of friends have called me and said, hey, we're booked on this cruise, and let's say it is a smaller ship. This person's going and that person's going along, and we would love for you to come along with us. Well, you know what? Absolutely. There is nothing better than a good group of people that you know and enjoy, so it wouldn't matter to me really which ship it was. Now, on the other hand, if I'm setting out to plan a cruise vacation, then honestly, I'm probably going to go with one of the larger ships. And the reason being is because the bigger ships really do offer so much more on board. Most of your time on a cruise is spent on the ship rather than at the ports, so it's kind of important to me that there are plenty of options for food, activity, and other things. Actually, we're going to be on the Carnival Horizon later this year and hope to bring you guys some good stuff from there as well. All right, hey, I hope I've shined a little bit of light today. How about a thumbs up? And please remember to hit that subscribe button. Also, check out our cruise gear listed in the description below. You might find something you couldn't find anyplace else. Guys, again, my name is Michael. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.